And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're talking about Deebo Samuel and Laremy Tunsil and why they can have a breakout season this year. Next, we're going to be talking about players to watch for as OTAs continue. And so before we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about Deebo Samuel and Laremy Tunsil breakout season coming. And so I read this article on ESPN.com. Definitely go and check this out. This is written by Bill Barnwell. And within this article, he's talking about players that have signed with new teams or have been traded for. And he's talking about what you can really expect from those players and things to watch for. So he doesn't label any player as a breakout or a flop, but it just made me think about the two players that he listed for us, Deebo Samuel and Laremy Tunsil, and why they can have a breakout season here. And so let's start with what he had to say with Deebo Samuel and why I think that he is going to have a good season here for the Washington Commanders. And so let's start with the fact that he is talking about his yak. And so according to ESPN's yak score, this is what Bill Barnwell puts, that he was first in 2021, he was first in 2022, he was first in 2023, and he was second in 2024. And that's over the past 4 seasons. And that's ESPN's yak score here. And so starting with yards after catch, I think that Deebo Samuel is poised to have many yards after catch in this offense. And let's start with the fact that he is playing with a dynamic quarterback in Jaden Daniels. I think that Jaden Daniels and his ability to extend plays, that is going to get defenses out of position. And you're talking about getting Deebo Samuel with a full head of steam with a defense that is out of position. They're probably going to be reaching for him. There's probably going to be arm tackles and things like that. And so that is going to give him a lot of chances to get some yards after catch. And so that's point number one. This is why I think that he is poised to have a very good season and a breakout season, I would say, for the Washington Commanders because of that. And then point number two, the offensive coordinator that he's working with Cliff Kingsbury, I think that he is going to run a lot of play schemes for him. I think that he's going to find creative ways to get Deebo Samuel the ball, especially as a wide receiver. I think that this is the year where you're going to see so many different just schemes to get him open as a wide receiver that he is going to be able to take clear advantage of that. And I think defenses are going to be in a lot of one-on-one situations with him. And once he gets the football in his hands, he knows how to make the first initial defender miss, and he's a powerful runner. And so I think that you're still going to see that type of dynamic football player because I do think coming into this year, he is super hungry to prove that he still has a lot left in the tank. And also, too, I think he's looking pretty good right now in the OTAs, which suggests that he is in some great shape. And so I think that that is another reason why he is going to take advantage of yak yards and why he is poised to have a breakout season for the Washington Commanders. And so the next point that was brought up here in this article is he talks about the 1,405 yards from scrimmage that he had in 2021. And he talked about the fact that he has not topped 900 yards in a single campaign. And so I really do believe he is going to have more receiving yards this year than he's had in his career with the San Francisco 49ers. And I say that because, number one, with Terry McLaurin and the way that he played last season and just the fact that defenses knew he was coming, but they still could not stop him and Jaden Daniels, I think now, aside from Deebo Samuel, you have another year with Zach Ertz and just the type of communication that Jaden Daniels and him had and the same page that they were on, and just really how well he finished because he was second on the team in receiving. Then you also add another dynamic, playmaker in Jalen Lane, who I think is going to have a say as far as some of the plays and things like that. And I think even if he's not getting the ball, I think that he does put pressure on the defense to at least make them think about it. Then you also have Noah Brown, who really was having a great season until he got injured. And so who knows how his season would have ended up. And so now you're adding Deebo Samuel to the mix. And I do think that this is going to be the year where you're going to see more productivity from him as a receiver. And so his best receiving year was 2023. And that's where he had 892 yards on a 14.9 average. And so last season, 670 yards on a 13.1 average. When you look at just what everybody did in the receiving game last season for the Washington Commanders, Terry McLaurin over 1,000 yards, 13.4 was his average. The second best receiver on the team was Zach Ertz at 654 yards on a 9.9 average. And so already coming in, if we're taking a down year from Deebo Samuel in 2024, he would have been good enough to be our second best receiver on the team last season. And so I do think that you add him with the playmakers that we already have. I do see that productivity coming up. And so I think that this could easily be a season that he does get 900 yards. I think he definitely can get to the 900 with all the different things that defenses are going to have to worry about. And so that's point number 2 there. And the last thing that is brought up here in the article is just really the usage. And they talk about just the fact that, coming in as a wide receiver 2, he's going to be in the screen game, the RPOs and things like that, and not to expect the production that he had in 2021. And so I think that that's fair. I think looking at 2021, that was a spectacular year for Deebo Samuel. And I think that, when you look at just the productivity across the board, aside from the 2021, you see a consistent player. And so I know the injuries happen. You don't want them to happen, but I think he's a very productive player here. And so even without that season, I think that he is going to be utilized much like he was with the 49ers. But I think that with the way that we have the offense set up, I think he has a chance to be a bit more dynamic. I think that RPO can be dangerous, especially if we can run the football like I was talking about on yesterday's show, which I really think that time of possession is going to be huge there, because now you'll have defenses start to creep up in the box, and that's where you can kind of go over the top. That's where you're going to get that single coverage and things like that, and that really plays into the hands of what Deebo Samuel does, which is yards after the catch. And so that's why I'm like, look, this is going to be the year that, yes, from a scheme standpoint, he can take off here. And when you look at what he did as a rusher, in 2021, he had 365 yards and 8 touchdowns there. This last season, in a down season, 136 yards on 42 carries. And so I could see Deebo getting 150 to 200 yards this year, maybe not as many carries. I would say anywhere from 30 to 40 carries. But because of the way that the offense and the window dressing and stuff is, I think that he's going to be able to run with those opportunities. And so am I banking on him having the 2021 production? No. But am I banking on him having a solid year that's even better than what we saw maybe over the last couple years? Absolutely. Now, is he looking to have the type of season and impact like, say, a Saquon Barkley, which is mentioned at the top of the article, or a Derrick Henry, or a Sam Darnold, those guys who came in and were immediate impacts like that? I'm not saying that, but I think between him and Laremy Tunsil, what they are going to do with just having an uppage here in their season numbers, it's going to collectively help this team push forward, and I think really get to a point where they've never been before, which is hopefully, the top of the NFC East, and we would like to see a Super Bowl here. And so next, talking about Laremy Tunsil and talking about what he had to say about him. And so with Laremy Tunsil, one of the key things that he brings up is that his next gen stat credits him with just 2.5 sacks allowed, which was a good number there at left tackle, playing a full season. And so that is something that we definitely need from him, because we know that defenses are going to be geared to come after Jaden Daniels. And we know that, look, Laremy Tunsil can get it done. He's shown that he can get it done in this league, and he's not coming off a down season as far as giving up that the sack rates and things like that. And so I think that that's huge. Point number 1, he's going to fit in just nicely there. And number 2, I think that with Jaden Daniels, one of the things that he got better at last season was his processing speed. I think that his ability to figure out where he wanted to go and just how he wanted to get you it just got so quick for him. And where it was going so fast for everybody else, it slowed down for him. And so it just, the game slowed down for him. His processing speed went up, which means this: if you're on the offensive line, you don't have to hold very long for him to make the play. He might just need to step up just for that second, and then the ball is out of there, or he's made his decision to start running the football. And so Jaden Daniels, just the way that he processes, and I think that that's going to take it to the next level this season. That is going to probably get Laremy Tunsil out of the silly penalties maybe that he had last season, because that is something that is brought up too in the article. And talking about that, look, he struggled with penalties in 2024. And I think that, he's not necessarily going to run into that. He's coming to an offensive line that I think they get another year to just get some continuity. And I think you add him over to be a bit of an anchor and a captain over here. Then you've added Josh Conley Jr., who's probably going to be in there on a rotational basis. But in the meanwhile, you get guys that can slide in maybe a little bit more into their natural fit on the offensive line. And so I think that this unit is going to come together very nicely. And much like Deebo Samuel, we're not talking about like just a guy that immediately, it breaks records or anything like that. But I think collectively, their breakout season and just being more productive than they were a season ago is going to help this team push forward. So those are reasons why I think both of these players are poised to have breakout seasons. And so next up, I wanted to go ahead and jump into players to watch for in these OTAs as they continue to heat up. And so I think the first player that I wanted to throw out there is going to be Luke McCaffrey. And so, look, I think that if Luke McCaffrey can step up here, I think that there's certainly a role for him on this team. And I think that one of the things that Cliff Kingsbury talked about was he threw a lot of stuff at him in year one. And so we want to see, does he continue to move forward with just the way that things are coming at him from an offensive standpoint, that understanding, and then does he start to assert himself to make some more plays? Because I do think that he could be really an X factor at the wide receiver position, especially if we have a wide receiver go down, because I talked about Noah Brown. He didn't get a chance to finish the season. And so there's very much a chance for, McCaffrey to come in and make some plays here. And so next, I think another player that we want to watch for is going to be Ben Sinnott. I think that, look, we know that Zach Ertz is on the 1 year, but Ben Sinnott definitely showed some flashes. So can he show some more flashes? Because I think he's part of the long-term plan for the Washington Commanders, and he could be the next thing up. And so can he take a major step forward? It's all about what you're doing in these OTAs, the mini camps and things like that. So that's some of the things that I want to watch for moving forward. And then next, I think another player to talk about a little bit more is going to be Kane Medrano. I think that him as a linebacker, the things that he can do and just really how fluid he is and quick, can he translate into the National Football League? I think one of the biggest questions for him is he's got to be a better tackler. So I know we haven't got to the live stuff just yet, but that's one of the things that I want to see with him. I did get a chance to read something there where he is talking to the linebacker coach and really just wanting to process and understand and just figure out the things that he can avoid as a player by learning from the players that are ahead of him. And so I love the fact that he's coming in as a sponge. And so I do want to see, do we see some more from him? Does he, pick off some passes? Does he look good in some drills and things like that? So I'm looking to see if we see some more of that from him. And then lastly, it's Jaden Daniels. And so does Jaden Daniels continue to look as comfortable as he did in the first OTA that we talked about? Because I think that another thing with Jaden Daniels, and I think something that really trickled down in the entire football team, was just how poised he was, right? Like we literally could be in situations where we're down 7 with 3 minutes left to go in a gotta have a game. And Jaden Daniels looks like that it's quarter number 1. And I think that type of composure, it really changed the way that the team operated. And so I think that if he can continue to do that with all the press and the pressure that is on this team, I think that it's certainly going to help this team move forward this year. And so I think that the more you see him in these OTAs, the more you see him in the mini camp, the preseason, all the stuff like that, and he looks good and he looks just as comfortable as he did a year ago, and he's working even harder than a year ago. I think that that is something that really the entire football team leads off of. And so I think that every time that you see him take a step forward and really coming out there, taking more command of the offense, understanding checks, understanding where players need to go, and coaching them up more than the coaches do, that is a huge step, especially when you're looking at your franchise quarterback. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here, what are the players that you have on your watch list here as OTAs continue. And so I'm sure we'll be talking more about that as OTAs heat up. And then next, let me know what you guys are thinking here about Laremy Tunsil and Deebo Samuel. Do you think that, yes, Laremy Tunsil and Deebo Samuel are set for some breakout seasons this year? And again, I'm not talking about that, they're coming over and they're necessarily setting the single, game records in receiving or anything like that. And I'm just referring back to Saquon Barkley and his historic season and just how he helped the Philadelphia Eagles get to the Super Bowl and win it. But I'm just saying that these guys having a more productive season, which I'm saying a much more productive season than they did a year ago, is going to help this team get to a new level. And so I think that they are poised for that. But you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, look, go Commanders, and I will see you guys in the next one. All right, peace.